right, so in the last video, I told you guys about the third day my mom was in the hospital. You know, things just started to get like absolutely insane from this point on. There was so much shit going on in this last month. Shit just started to go crazy from this point out. And I'm gonna show you guys a calendar so this like kind of makes sense because I'm gonna kind of go day by day. Like I just can't even explain how crazy it was. Wow. So this is my old phone that I used at that time, and it, you know, I had to look back through it. So I kind of had to dead this phone in a sense because I wanted to preserve whatever was on it. It was also damaged. So me and my cousin, we wrote this calendar, and every fucking day it has some shit on it. So, all right, so I brought my mom in the hospital on the 18th. That Wednesday night, they put her in the room, and the 20th was her first full day in a room, which was the day that my brother's wife started calling about healthcare proxy. Probably explain my mom's condition. I mean, it was bad. She was in really bad shape at this point in time. You know, she had come in the hospital. They had her in the emergency room. Then they transferred her to this critical decision unit. So it was the second night she was there. They put her in a room. And that was the night my brother texted me. And he's like, oh, you know, you don't have to come here and all this shit. And I'm like, why wouldn't I come there? Like, why are you trying to keep me away from the hospital? So it's Friday night. It's the 21st, okay? That was the day I talked to the social worker. And the social worker told me that my brother's wife kept calling and asking if my mom had a healthcare proxy. It wasn't her place to do that. You know, my mom was in really bad condition at this time. You know, she was in really bad pain. And I brought her in. She was able to get up. She was in this room, okay? So it's a double room. And she was closest to the door in the hallway. And then there was a curtain and there was another person and the bathroom door is over there. That first night when she got in the room, she was able to get up and like walk into the bathroom herself. And then the second day came and all of a sudden now she can't walk into the bathroom. So they bought her like this little kind of portable like commode thing and she was sitting on that. Then all of a sudden, you know, she couldn't really get up to do that. She was having trouble getting up. And so she became completely bedridden. That mass that was sitting on her spine, like it was compressing all the nerves that were going down to her legs. Once those nerves are compressed for a period of time and the blood supply is cut off, they start to kind of die off. So the doctors, like, they didn't even know if my mom was like gonna get that feeling back in her legs. She started having a pain also in her shin, which we found out cancer had spread down there. It was just like every day things just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So that Thursday, my mom, that whole thing happens with the healthcare proxy, right? My mom on Friday, I think we were on the phone and she's like, you know, your brother called me and this is how much of a bitch my brother is, okay? My mom's in the hospital. She was clearly in very, very bad shape at this point. Like, I was at this point scared that she was gonna die at any minute. That's how bad things were. She couldn't get up. She couldn't walk. She was on like heavy dose of Dilaudid. It's basically like legal heroin. She's completely fucking out of it. She can't even get through her phone. You know, she'd be like, oh, I saw something on Facebook. And then she would go into the Facebook app, like think she was going into the Facebook app, and she would end up in the calculator app and she'd just be like sitting there staring at the phone. She was fucking out of it. It was very scary. You know, you're talking to her, she's kind of dozing in and out of conscience. And then on top of that, she started having these really severe panic attacks. She couldn't breathe. She was fucking panicking and kicking the bed and flailing, you know, her arms all over the place. And it would take the nurses like a good like half hour to get her calmed down and her, you know, her breathing regulated. On top of that, she had fluid building up on her lungs because she really needed dialysis. Like, I'm not sure exactly what it was, but like she wasn't computing the severity of the situation. My brother went that afternoon. They talked about doing the radiation on my mom's spine, okay? They were gonna do like one just like strong blast of radiation. So they were planning on doing it, I think that Monday, with the intent to shrink that mass that they found on her sacrum. And that was going to, you know, at least alleviate some of the pain that she was in. All right, so I talked to my mom that day and she's like, Liana, can you just do me a favor? And I'm like, what? And she's like, and this just goes to show how much of a bitch my brother is. She's like, Steven came up here and told me that you were like withholding information from him and you're not telling him everything. Could you just talk to him? And I was like, Ma, I don't want to start anything, but I've been talking to him. I've been communicating with him. You could see my text messages. And I showed her all my text messages. I said, here you go. Here's my text messages. She's like, oh, well, he came in here complaining that, you know, you weren't telling him things. Like, what a fucking bitch, dude. Like, you're a grown man. You go into your mother's hospital room. Do you not understand the gravity of the situation? Like, she's in really bad shape. And you're going in there like a little fucking baby, complaining to her, oh, Mom, Leanna's not telling me everything. Like a little fucking bitch. Like, leave her the fuck alone. If you had a problem with me, man the fuck up and talk to me about it. Don't go into your mommy and start crying and whining to her. And then he was whining about the healthcare proxy. My mom's like, you know, could you just explain to him like what the healthcare proxy is? Tell him that you have the forms at your house and you'll show him and everything like that. So I was like, yeah, Ma, of course. Of course I was willing to do that. And so I just want to read this to you guys because I get on the phone with him. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to text him. To be honest with you guys, I knew me and my brother working together as a team was better off for my mom's, you know, spirit and her health and everything else in the long run. I didn't want to stress her out. It became very evident to me that she was in bad shape. I didn't want to scare her. I didn't want to stress her out anymore. I really was like legitimately trying everything I could to make sure that I wasn't a source of stress for her. If it came to me having to just kiss my brother's ass and be nice to him, I was gonna do it. I remember going to bed every night while my mom was in the hospital this last month and just thinking to myself, today was the worst day. It just can't get worse. And then I would wake up the next day and it would get fucking worse. And I'll show you guys the text. So Saturday now, this is the 22nd, okay? First of all, Saturday morning I wake up. You know, I part of me doing this is me having to bear all and, you know, tell the parts that I did and how I played into things. And so this is embarrassing for me, but whatever. You know what they say in The Godfather, keep your friends close and keep your enemies even closer. At that time, I had access to my grandmother's Facebook page, okay? I'm the one who made her Facebook page. I had her password and this and that. My grandmother's friends with Satan on Facebook, okay? Just to like put this out there, my whole family, they all use my grandmother's page to stalk people. All my aunts, they all use it. My mom used it. They all used it because there's people that are friends with my grandmother but not friends with us. I'm sorry, all women are fucking stalkers. We are. I'm a nosy bitch. I want to know what's going on. So I want to see what's going on Satan's page. I go on the page, dude, Friday night. They were at the bar. She posted this picture of them at the bar with these friends, right? Like one of those like Instagram pictures where there's like two pictures in one frame. And they have these huge shit-eating grins on their faces. It just rubbed me the wrong way. I felt like I couldn't leave my mom at the hospital. I was there until at least midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, like, I couldn't leave my mom. I felt like I couldn't do anything or go anywhere that was too far away because God forbid something happened to her. I wanted to be like close by the hospital just in case something happened. They just kept living their lives like nothing happened. Tell me if I'm wrong. These big shit-eating grins on their faces. Like, I don't know how they could even smile. Knowing how bad a shape my mom was in, going to the bar and just smiling the way they did. I wish I could show you guys this picture. I have it. It's just disturbing. After my mom passed away, you know, they said a couple of people had said to me that they saw this picture and they were like, how fucked up is that? Like they're at a bar. I even said something to my mom, which I probably shouldn't have. And she's like, you know, Liana, everybody deals with things differently. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. But like, if you guys saw the condition my mom was in, like, I don't know. I just wouldn't have, with good faith, been able to go out and have fun that night. Like, knowing my mom's in the hospital suffering the way she is. Maybe that's just me. And, You know, I don't want to make them seem like bad people for that, but it just seemed a little fucking selfish. So I have this conversation with my brother this day. My girlfriend worked at the hospital. I told you guys this, okay? And she did something for me that she probably shouldn't have done, but I'm so thankful that she did it. She pulls me over to the computer and she's like, Leanna, what do you know about your mom's cancer? I tell her it's whatever type it is and this and that. And she goes, how about like, where is it? So I'm like, you know, her tailbone, her leg, this, that. She's like, let me show you something. So she pulls up my mom's chart and it says that my mom's cancer spread to the lungs. Nobody ever told me this. I tried to ask my mom about it next day and she totally like acted evasive and blew it off. And I didn't want to press her about it. So I was just like, okay, all right, mom. That day now, it's October 22nd. It's that Saturday. I text my brother and I write to him, and this is at night. I write, hey, you know anything else about mommy's situation? Like anything new that she may have found out? He writes back to me, no, the last I heard was yesterday about the radiation. Her cancer pills are coming on Wednesday. That was another thing that happened that day. Let me back up. They had originally prescribed this medication called Votrient for my mom. It was a new form of chemotherapy. It was in a pill, and it was targeted to the specific cancer that my mom had, which was papillary type 2 kidney carcinoma. It took forever. They had to send it out to my mom's insurance company for approval. My mom's insurance company denied the medication. This took like a month and a half, because my mom had no prior cancer treatment. And really think of how fucked up this is. And this is the state of the healthcare system in our country. I think it speaks volumes that we need some serious fucking healthcare reform when people have cancer and they can't even get the medication that they need to live because the government is so fucking selfish and these drug companies are so fucking selfish. Her insurance denied the coverage of this medication, which we were told, you know, people with this type of cancer, they were seeing good results with. And so they made her try this other drug. And that drug, you know, wasn't as good as the other one. It took over a month. So, she, you know, from the time we went to the oncologist, then she got denied. Then he had to find this other medication. Then they had to go through the whole approval process again with her insurance companies. Now we're going on like 2 months almost. And finally, that Saturday, my brother's wife fucking volunteers to have the fucking pills sent to her house. I got pissed. I was like, why are the pills going to her house? They're going to be at work all week. I thought at this point in time, like the pharmacy was delivering them, okay? Shouldn't they come to my house? They're going to be at work. So we're going to leave this like serious medication with their fucking nanny who I never met. You guys might think I'm crazy, but I started getting so paranoid at this point in time. You know, me and my husband's a little extra sometimes with the paranoia shit, because it was just so weird that these two people who were never involved, never fucking picked up prescriptions or did anything of that nature, all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, we'll get your cancer drugs, you know? I seriously started thinking in my head, like, this bitch is crazy. She's gonna open my mom's pills up and put like poison in them. Like, I swear to God, I really started thinking this. Maybe I watched too much Dateline in 48 hours. You just never know. I don't trust this girl as far as I could throw her. I mean, when I tell you guys, the vibe you get off of her when you like meet her, it's like just evil. Like this heat comes off her. I can't even explain it. Like I kind of got mad at my mom because I was like, you should have just told them to drop it off at my house because I could bring it right up to the hospital instead of waiting for them. Just keep that in mind because it's gonna make sense later. Back to the text. I said to my brother, I said, so you heard nothing else about the cancer spreading to other places? He says, well, what she has on her spine is the cancer that spread. Did you hear anything? She also mentioned the coughing blood, and they're looking at that, okay? So I said, well, my friend is a nurse there. She told me it's in mommy's lungs too. I did not know this. She won't tell me. I asked her, but she made up some bullshit about secretions, and she's trying to tell me it's nothing. I saw everything. It's on the lymph nodes around her stomach, the bone, and there are lesions on the lungs. I don't think she wants to tell us. I think because she doesn't want us to worry. I don't know. My husband says she knew this when she went to the oncologist the very first time. She went with Aunt Betty and Aunt Debbie. I kick myself every day for not going to that appointment. This is the very first time I'm hearing about the lungs, but it makes sense. Please don't call her and upset her. Because of course I have to tell him. Because he'll call her up and be like, Mom, the cancer spread to your lungs. Leanna's telling me. Like, he's like such a little bitch. So he writes, the last time she was in the hospital, she had a needle biopsy in the lungs and stomach, and it tested positive. So you just pretended that you didn't know this, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, last time she had a biopsy on her lungs. Like, what? So I wrote back, what? I said I knew about the stomach, not the lungs. He writes back, they said they saw something in both places. I said, how do you know that? He writes back, I don't remember who told me, but that's why she needs to start taking the new drugs. I said, yeah, and she said the drugs were coming Monday. Why are you saying Wednesday? He said, she said they're consulting on Wednesday. He wrote, they're shipping on Tuesday. They can't do it sooner because they have to order it. They don't keep it on hand. I said, you don't remember who told you? Was it a doctor or just some person? How come you didn't know when I first asked? He wrote, and she is getting the consultation with the pharmacist on Wednesday also. I said, oh, okay, I got it. She said Monday. She's lost. He wrote, yeah, they're calling her so she doesn't have to remember Wednesday at 10 a.m. I'll remind her. So I said, okay, so what happens with the pills once you get them? Where do they go from there? And I wrote back, you need to tell me these things if I'm not there because she gets confused or agitated if I ask her too many questions. So he wrote, that's up to the doctors in the hospital. I don't know if she could start taking them right away in the hospital. So this is like, my mom asked me to talk to him about this, okay? Also, I was told by mommy that you seem to think I'm keeping information from you. Read your text messages. I told you everything I was aware of. I just want to make that clear. I've been trying to keep you up to date with whatever I know. If I don't know something, it's because I wasn't told about it. And then he writes back to me, I'm keeping you up to date with whatever I find out too. I said, okay, well, she told me that yesterday. As soon as I knew we were going to the hospital, I told you. From that point on, I told you. The MRI thing I kept to myself until you asked because I'm not a doctor and didn't want to panic you if I was wrong. I knew they'd be telling her the next day. I just don't want you to think that. I would never do that with something this serious. So he writes back to me, no problem, we'll keep each other up to date. So I wrote, same stuff goes for the healthcare proxy. It's not about us though. It's about what her wishes are and making sure they're carried out. That is not my choice. She needs to sit us both down and talk to us like Daddy did. And then he writes, I agree. So, right, okay. This whole conversation now is going on live. Like, we're going back and forth, almost like we're in like a chat room, you know? Like, I'm texting and then he's answering, I'm texting. This is all happening quickly, all right? Over like a period of like 10 minutes or so. I write back to him and I say, just me and you. Maybe we should decide on a night where we can go up to the hospital and talk. Never fucking answered after that. As soon as I suggested that only me and him go and sit down with my mom and have this talk about what her wishes are so there's no problems, because I was starting to already see that like problems were developing. I started to already see my crystal ball, I guess, of douchery, that we were gonna have some issues. You know, in my head, I thought we'll sit down with my mom together in the same room at the same time so we're both hearing the same thing. So, you know, right then and there, I knew shit wasn't gonna go good because he just like didn't answer me. It was like as soon as I suggested just me and him talk to my mom, I got cut off. Why does this girl even want to be there for that conversation? Like, this is the most intimate, personal conversation that a family could have. My husband wasn't gonna be there and he's been around for almost 10 years. You know, your wife hasn't even barely been in our lives for fucking 3 years now. She doesn't need to be in the room while we're having this like intimate conversation with my mom. It's just so fucked up. The last thing to happen that night was my Aunt Betty, my Aunt Debbie, and my Uncle Bob show up at the hospital. I had not talked to these people in months. I had texted Aunt Debbie and kind of made amends with her. I come back up to the hospital that night and they were already in there. I can't explain the worry that was in my heart from my mom at this point in time. She was in bad shape. She was scaring the shit out of me. I know I said this before, but I just can't get it across enough. Like, I just couldn't stop worrying about her. I really thought this was going to be it, you know, in these couple of days, like she was going to die. So I walk in the room that night and I went straight to my mom's bed. I'm sorry, my mom's in the hospital. I don't give a fuck who else is in the room, okay? Donald Trump could have been in there. Fucking Pope could have been in there. God himself could have been standing there with Jesus and Mary and Joseph. My mom was my focus. That was my concern. So I walked in the room and I said hi to my mom first. Asked her how she was, asked her if she needed anything, whatever. I say hi to my Aunt Debbie, say hi to my Aunt Betty. Now my Uncle Bob has had an issue with me for a long time. First of all, because I got bit by their dog when I was younger. I explained this in one of my other videos. I got a settlement from their insurance company, and like, I don't know, I always felt like he like was annoyed by that. Like, cause he would always make these little comments like, you know, I thought I was hot shit when I was like 23 years old. So I bought this like Lincoln LS. That was like an expensive car. Waste of money. I did love that car. That was my baby. My Uncle Bob, like, I would get a new car and he'd be like, oh, that's a nice car I bought you. My mom did not sue them because I got bit by their dog. Their insurance company just gave us a settlement. He reported it to his insurance company. So, like, it wasn't our fault, you know? And he was such a dick about it. He always used to throw it in my face all the time. Then, you know, this thing happens with his kid and, you know, another cousin of mine. And so he resents me. I'm sure my Aunt Debbie showed him the letter that I wrote to her. So I'm sure he saw that. It's almost like he was waiting for this opportunity to like not have to talk to me anymore. So like he saw my mom and was like how bad a condition she was in. And he was like, good, Leanna's cut off. Like he was only talking to me out of respect for my mom. Now that my mom's like loopy with the opiates, he's like, I don't have to talk to her. Because I turned around. He was standing up against the wall like this. I said hi to Aunt Debbie. I said hi to Aunt Betty. And I turn around and I look at him. And he fucking shot a look right through me as if I wasn't standing there. He's a tall guy. He's like 6 feet tall. I felt his eyes go right through me as if I wasn't standing there. I kind of stood there for a second like, hello, you know, you gonna say hi? And he just kind of looked right through me. So I just was like, okay, you know, and I didn't even say hi to him. Normally for my family, everybody hugs and kisses and blah, blah, blah. You know, the Italian thing. It takes like 20 minutes to say goodbye when you're at a family party. It's like, all right, like you have to say we're leaving. And then like a half hour later, you actually leave after you say goodbye to everybody. Of course, I hear later on that I put my hand up in his face and was like, ugh. No, that's not what happened. I kind of just looked up at him and I kind of just like shrugged my shoulders and I was like, okay. He's normally like very talkative and whatever. And it was just so awkward. But everything was fine with my aunts and that's what mattered to me that night. You know, my Aunt Debbie went and she ordered my son like an iPad case and like, so I'm like, okay, things are good. Things are chill. At least I got my aunts, you know, like somebody I could talk to. That didn't last long. I'm going to end this one here and come back in the next one.